Hello, everyone. Ken here, Basketball Rewind, and guess what? It is, draft talk. So yeah, it is draft talk, draft season. And last time we said that we're gonna get into. I threw out a couple names, but I
Mhm.
said Chris Cenac was gonna be one of the names, and he is going to be the name today that we're gonna be talking about. But before we get into him. Just real quick, and we're going to do it a little bit differently, just kind of like, not get into too much of the measurables just yet, but your thoughts just in general of this draft class, and the big men in the draft class and your thoughts on them, overall, because I know
Um,
we could talk about the guards for a long
yeah,
time,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. I, I think the last draft might have more big men that I think that would be, the big men in this draft's a bit different. They're almost like kind of like hybrid fours and fives, kind of.
yeah.
They can play, which is fine. They can play fives. I said before, the slim man is back. So in the NBA, so these guys could probably get away with fives. I just did a pod actually about that, about DPOI, and pretty much all the slender men are pretty much all the DPOI candidates in this case here, from Mobley to Wemby to Chet. It's like so. Hey man, from that perspective, that prototype, he's kind of right in that sense. I'm not saying he's gonna be that, folks. I'm just saying that prototype. But I think there's a lot of guys kind of have that feel. They're very athletic. There's a lot of value, man. If you're in the draft, man, this is a draft you don't want to be out of. There's a lot of value. Doesn't matter where you are. I think I said before, even if you're in the 20s and the Raptors they might be in that area, they can
Yeah,
still get themselves a very good player and possibly actually a big for once.
I think that if they make the play offs,
Well, that's if you yeah.
you could be looking anywhere between 16 to say, I think 20 is kind of where their limit is, maybe
I
21.
think I saw
Um,
22 on Thankathon right now where they're at. Yeah, I think it's
they're,
22.
they're at 20 right now as of
Oh,
today.
20? Okay.
Yeah, so that's why, and I'm looking who's in front of them. It's like, okay, well, they have a better record than Minnesota, probably not, right? And
Oh,
like, and then it's like the Lakers, probably not. It's just because like a lot of the Western teams are already like pushing
yeah,
you down. And
yeah.
then the other thing too is like there's other teams. I'm not looking right now, but for example, I will actually look and see like, okay, so the Raptors have 32, they're 32 and 23, and I look at guys, teams like Portland.
Mhm,
Or we'll just use like Golden State for example. Like could Golden State catch you from a taking and like surpass you?
mhm.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there is a world, like even the Suns.
Hmm.
Could the Suns uh have an easier record than you, and all of a sudden you're 19th? All of a sudden, the other one is actually going to be, it's the 76ers pick this year, but it's technically OKC, or sorry, it's the other way around. It's going to OKC's, but it's 76ers pick. That's the 18th pick. Could the 76ers surpass you? It is possible.
Right.
So I think the point that I'm trying to get at is like you could easily be like, our range is
Hmm.
still not settling, but it looks like it's not going to be in the mid 20s.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 for sure. And I think there's a lot of value. And so I chuckled because I was thinking to myself, like, for all the guys that want big, a couple of teams that Kenya mentioned, they should not be drafting a big. Let's put it that way. They're fine. Like Phoenix,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. Like I see, like it's like, oh, the Hornets taking Patrick. It's
Right.
like, I don't think they need another Duke player.
Right, exactly, right. So there's some
Another
teams that
Duke.
are like, yeah, they're gonna be okay. So like, I think even that
I'll be
range
all
actually,
right.
yeah,
Shout out
and
to
I think
Kendrick.
exactly. I think the other thing too is how this draft is going. You kind of hinted at it. The
Yeah,
strength is in the wings and the guards. Therefore,
absolutely.
the centers are going to be all back there in that same area that you've been describing for the Raptors. So they're giving the Raptor fans a little bit of perspective. For all you guys that have been begging for a big,
Yes.
this might be the year, guys.
There's also quite a number of power forwards as well. Not too many centers, but there's a couple of centers that are interesting that we will definitely talk about. But yeah, this year is, if you wanted to get a point guard, it is. But we're going to talk about a center today.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people have been wanting a center so bad. And there was one that caught my eye and that I wanted to talk about, and that's Chris Cenac. So let's get into it. He's playing. That's Jamal Shed's alma mater,
Mhm.
and of course he plays power forward slash center, depending on how you're viewing him. Some of these I wrote a lot of my notes from before, so in terms of the percentages, like we'll just, I mean, it's within the past week, so I don't think it like shifted that much, but. Let's get into it. But before I get into anything else, he's allegedly 240 pounds, 243. I've heard.
Hmm.
He's a freshman. He's 19 and almost 19 and a half years old.
Hmm.
So he'll still be 19 at the time of the draft. And the nice other thing about him is I heard he has a 7'3" wingspan, so it's a plus size wingspan. Um, the numbers don't pop off the page. I have a lot of thoughts, but I kind of want you to go first and give me
Yeah.
your
Well,
thoughts.
you want to get the rundown about what he's done so far this year, get the numbers, and then we'll get into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the numbers so far right now, he's averaging these are pretty recent. It's about 14 and 10, right? 14 and 11.
Hmm.
He averages about one assist and zero point 0.8 blocks and one steal. So let's say it's about like two stocks for people who love the stocks thing. What's interesting about him is beyond the arc, he's shot about 37.5% as of the last time I looked at the numbers. And what's really cool about that 37.5% is it's on decent volume. It's on, especially for a big man, it's about 2.5, 2.4 attempts a game. And he really is good at running the floor in transition. So in transition and during broken plays, he really takes advantage of those opportunities. And so or as a trailing big, he allows you to not like, okay, you're screwing over your defense by letting the big run ahead and running it with your guards and stuff, or with your wings as everyone else goes. You can kind of do that where he's kind of trailing behind whoever's running the ball, running the ball up, and he can kind of trail, and then he hits those beyond the arc threes. So his shot profile has been really good in terms of it's really good in the threes, is really good in it's decent inside. It could be better inside, but I do think that there's some mid range it could be better.
Hmm.
Um, he rebounds the ball around 7.7 times a game. In terms of crashing down at times. Um, Again, it might be up to 10 since the last time I looked. So that's I'm looking at two different numbers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the 10 number, but it was 7.7 times a game. And he was doing like 10 when I was looking before. It was around 10 points on 14, or
Hmm.
sorry, on 8 shots. So it's not that bad. But his shot is, I think, the most impressive thing about it is the release. Like we talked about Gray's release the other day. Like his release is just right, like, and it's very repeatable.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. His shot form is like really technically really sound, and it
Yes.
doesn't matter where he is on the court; it looks the same all the time. He has a fairly quick release for a big guy too. Um, so for me, from a perspective, I told you offline before we got on the pod.
Yep.
I think like when I saw him initially, what I saw was I saw Newell. That's what I saw. Like when I saw his game, I saw a lot of Newell. Now he's a bit bigger than Newell from a physical standpoint, but a guy,
Mm.
a power forward slash center could shoot the three, really good at lobs, could finish around the hoop. Um, I can't remember Newell, but I think Newell was a bit better mid range shooter. I think than he was. I think if I recall, but both in
I'll get into that for
yeah,
sure.
Newell has a better shooter overall. But I think the other part I think is, and this probably we'll get to on the other side of the ball. I heard the guys, the Tylers in this case from No Ceilings talk about how Kelvin Sampson is not too happy with the Houston defense these days. I'm not saying it's all on him, but I didn't really see a lot. I'm not sure where he's at defensively. It does seem to be. It seems like we have a bit of a combination of physical gifts, kind of like Newell, intangibles, kind of like Ware, and where it's like there's at times a bit of like you need to crank the engine a little bit with him at times, and that could be something that could be interesting. He is one of these things where very much like where he may have been the right team to get the best out of him. But I do like the rawness of it. Maybe that's one of the other things too that I've heard is still a little bit too raw for some people's likings. I'm not so concerned about that. Because I think rawness for a big in this case that you don't expect to be a focal point for your offense.
Yeah.
I said before, I said it with Malawaj last year. He stands up there and he plays 25 minutes. He probably get about 8, 9 rebounds and
Well,
probably about 8 points.
we saw that sometimes he don't have that in him to do that.
Right.
The
That's true.
rebounding.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Same Houston team, by the way.
Yes, yeah, sure. That is true. That is true. Yeah, I mean, I think it just to, go right into the Newell comparisons. I just looked it up and it confirmed what I thought. So as you know, those of you who have been watching Draft Dog and you beyond, already know where I'm going to go with this as soon as I say it. One of the things that I think translates over and tells a good portion of the story without telling everything is the free throw rate, because it tells me a lot about your game, especially if even though you're shooting threes or whatever position that you want to play, it lets me know if you have the craft in you to draw the free throws or if you're at least attacking the rim a lot. And for someone who succeeds on a lot of broken plays or by running out in transition, Newell was doing like 5.4 attempts a game at the line. This guy is doing 1.4.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
So yeah, there's your difference.
that speaks to the intangibles and lack of a better term, the motor, right? Because that is like you being involved in things and just
Yeah,
just being involved in producing friction. Let's use it that way to get into the middle of things that you get to the free throw line. And some folks don't have the stomach for it, and other folks do have the stomach for it.
I think that his handle needs a lot of work, and it's been a consistent thing that a lot of people have kind of brought attention to and stuff like that. Not that Newell was like breaking dudes down, but Newell had like the footwork. So in terms of who has a better driving game, it would be Newell, in my opinion. I thought Newell would be much better driver of the ball, and you see it, right? Like his overall percentage is good. He's shooting like 50%. Newell was also a better free throw shooter, interestingly enough. This guy's not a great free throw shooter, but again, he's shooting from deep, so I'm not as worried. But like part of it is just like when you're only shooting one a game, if you miss one, right? It's just like okay. Whereas the other guy might be shooting like 65%, but it's like so you're or shooting 60% because you're always shooting like 3 of 5, but you're getting to the line 5 times. So
See, to me, right, and see when I see guys that have that type of discrepancy from being their field goal percentage versus the free throw percentage, to me that speaks to in this case, like it's one thing when you're not a natural shooter and you struggle at the line. Okay, that's understandable to some extent. Okay, you're only
yeah,
shooting 70%, but when you're a guy shooting that well in the field, it tells me in this case once again it's the intangibles. You're not focused when you
yeah.
get the line.
Now I'll cut him some slack because again, you're going to line once,
You're right, but
right?
yeah,
So it's
and
just like that. Like I'm just saying, like just from the sheer like sample
the volume,
size,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like it's like okay, well, what happens if you just doubled that? Like
Right, you got the bad
does
day.
it kind of like go up or does it go down? Like that,
Yeah, yeah.
it's really hard to say. Like oh, okay, like you know, like maybe at a flu game or something like that.
Right,
Like
exactly. The volume, yeah, you'll get a better sense by the end of the season with the volume gets up. But
yeah.
if he's still trending at 1.5 free
Like
throws,
some of the okay, so here's the last 5 games, right? Like in terms of free throws, he had one game where it was like 1 of 4, right?
mhm,
And then the games before that, the other 4 games is like 0, 0, 0, 0 attempts.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying? Where it's like, so that's why I'm like, I wouldn't hyper focus on the percentage,
percentage is more the attempts.
but is more the attempts. And what does the attempts tell you? Now, as a rebounder, I hear what you're saying. You're worried a little bit about motor. I actually think that his motor is decent because like the way that he rips stuff down
Mhm.
is good, and the way that he crashes the boards, I think is really good. But to your point, he's a bit yeah. I can see the where he's getting the raw
Yeah,
comparisons
and
and
the word you hear a lot too is like inconsistency, which is always something that's makes you feel a little bit concerned.
yeah
If you're in the 20s, then you're not as concerned about it. If you're in the 20s as a draft, you're drafting from there. When you're in the teens, you really, it gets a little dicier now, boys. Where you willing to put your resume on the line?
right.
It's like,
Now I think why he fits, and I'm looking right now just to compare it to Newell as well, but um I think his rebounding percentage is actually better than Newell's. Which is interesting. Newell's was around like a say like a I think it was 13.7. His is at 17 percentage. So 17% of the time he's getting a board, right? 17.5%, I think. So that's like pretty solid. It's not like earth shattering. It's not like Shaq or anything like that, but like those are pretty solid numbers. Defensively, I do think Newell's numbers are a little bit more like popping in a sense. I think that they
That's
have
why I got the sense of too. Yeah.
he's a decent, like, he will let guys kind of blow by him, but he not just blow bys, but like guys will surpass him. Now I don't know if that's part of like the new way of
Right.
guarding guys
Setting up
or
a good
not.
block.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. So he does have the length to be able to recover on those.
Right.
And I don't think he's just like like he doesn't have bad defensive principles. Like he's not giving up on defense or
Right.
anything like that. So,
Right. Yeah.
but he's it's good because the way that I look at it is, um, he's a lower usage player. So in
Mhm.
terms of like the perfect big for what the Raptors are looking for, a guy that can like help Scotty and CMB, because in the future, if you're gonna have some sort of iteration of the current team, you would imagine that Scotty and CMB will be potentially part of that. And if that is the case, then you need a big more than likely. You need a point guard who can handle the rock and not do a whole bunch of different things that quickly is just not doing right now. And then from a big perspective, you need a big that is a little bit more versatile. I'm not saying that it's all about the 3 and D big, but you need someone who's more versatile than Yak. And I think that while he doesn't have the best and most expansive mid-range game, he's shown enough that he can pick and pop, or especially catch and shoot from the mid-range, where I know people focus on pick and pop. I was listening to Sampson and Caitlin Cooper the other day discuss about pick and pop bigs, and I think they were focusing on the big popping, to the 3 point line. I would focus on popping into like an 18-foot jumper.
Well,
That can do a lot.
that could do a lot of damage. I mean, I think that's the rationale we were thinking about, like why of the trade possibility, Sabonis might have been the most compelling from an offensive standpoint. Because not only can he be a hub, to your point, that 18-foot jump shot is right in his wheelhouse. That's his bailiwick, right? It'll knock down an 18-foot jump shot. Now,
Yeah,
I have no problem with. That's the reason why we like Newell in this case for the Raptors a season ago, for that very same reason.
yeah.
I think overall, I mean, like if you had to give me true story and say, okay, we had the 17th pick, for example, and he's on the board. Obviously, depending on context, but if that was was him, and I don't know, say some random guard, stuff like that, I say, you know what, I would take the chance with him. But, I think
Depends
so.
on the guard.
Well, it depends on.
We won't get into it today, but if a cuff is there,
Bro, that's the guard, one guard where it's like,
or it's Mikhail Brown who just put up 45,
yeah, right.
or like any of those dudes. Like, there's a lot of guards. I'm sorry, but like, there's a lot of guards that I'm like,
dudes are gonna be there in the late.
I'm just saying, if they are there, say the Raptors sink down, say the Raptors are 16th,
yeah,
in the draft, right? Yeah. Or there's a possibility. Sorry, folks. What if the Raptors are 13th?
Well, no, definitely not. No, that's deep. No, that's deep water. I ain't picking him there.
Right? Like that's why I'm saying, like, if the Raptors move
like,
into a range in the draft where they things go a particular way where they're they're just at the edge of the lottery, right?
From Arizona, I'd be looking at that point, man.
That's or there's a guy from Alabama.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that's all I'm saying is there's a lot of interesting names.
There are a ton of interesting names. I mean, as I said before, if you're later in the draft, the back half of the draft, he's a possibility that I would take a chance on. As I said before, it's very much kind of Ware.
Yeah.
I think Ware has a much more physical presence to him than him in my mind. Like when I see Ware just seems to have a bigness to him in this case.
When you say Ware, you mean Khalil?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, like when I see center, right? He's kind of like a hybrid where that's why he's kind of like Newell where he could get away with it. And I still believe in this game, how this game's being played now. I think the fact that Chet is literally playing center for the guys in the OKC at the moment. And I must admit, I said it on the pod, I'll say it to you in your face, man. I give your man kudos, man. I was shocked when I did my review. My man is at 0 games missed this year. Impressive, Jet. Impressive.
Yes, yes. So yeah, I think I mean, I think that there is a little bit of playmaking upside with this guy, but I
Yes, I
don't.
wanted to mention that too. Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw a
but
few plays where he had some back doors on you guys like that.
yeah, but it's there's a lot of work to be done,
Mhm.
and he's low usage, and which is a good thing, but a bad thing because if he's gonna come here and the plan is to make him low usage,
So
um,
let me throw an
yeah,
experiment here for you. Let's play a little experiment here. Let's say Mamu gets the dream of his life. He gets the contract of the world, and it's possible because he's
okay,
earned it. He's played well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Mamu moved off to better pastures. And we draft him. Could he fill in what Mamu's doing right now? Do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah, yeah. That's I guess what I'm kind of going at. I think he could do it better because Mamu's not good at defense. This guy, I think he has some better rim protection stats. He's bigger than Mamu. Um, I think Mamu's a much better driver. I think this guy's more of a diver, not a driver. So he's good at diving down, and there's your. The way that I'm trying to find a coin a phrase for it, but it's almost like a 3 and dive guy, right? Where it's like he can pop hit the three, but he can also dive down and be a lob threat,
Which
and
is
that's a
very rare,
very
actually.
it is very rare.
Yeah, exactly.
He has a very interesting skill set. But if
Yeah.
this is like what they're kind of like looking for as an alternative to, just the center just purely being like Pirtle and handling the rock, which I think they partially do because Pirtle's not a threat, and so that helps you to peel his defender up. This kind of does something different.
Right.
And I think he could be a very versatile big, and maybe be a starting level big at the NBA level with some extra refinement. He's interesting.
I don't remember in my head like it was like there's Porzingis, Triple J.
Yeah.
I'm already starting to shrink on anybody else that's on
And
that
even
side.
Triple J has a little bit more of an expansive game than just like
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah, for
he's
sure.
not really like a lob threat in a sense.
No, but he can do lob threats, and you
Yes.
obviously can shoot the three. One thing is like we obviously
Yeah.
Porzingis can do both as well
You
too.
see what happened with his knees too.
You're exactly right. But I'm sitting there going like, okay, I'm already getting already thin about okay, who's left already after I mentioned the two of them to
Yeah.
have that type of skill set, right? You can take a guy Lively, Lively's all dive all the time. He ain't getting
Yeah.
much of
Yeah. There's no threes. Yeah.
right. And then to your point, you get some other guys in this case that all they are pop guys, right?
Yeah.
You're
And
not
even if this guy is not creating his own shot, if you have the shot created for him,
right,
him as a popper,
right.
very interesting.
Right, you got Vucevic. He's pretty much a pop guy. He's not going to really dive and kind of take it on your head. So
No.
there's really not a lot of dudes that can do what you're suggesting right there. Funny enough, where is one of the few guys that can have that skill set in some
True.
way?
True.
So
True.
that's interesting to see. And potentially
I do, for the record, just so folks know, I do think that Ware is more talented.
Oh, I agree. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot more to Ware's game than what I'm seeing from this young man right now.
Yes.
Yeah,
But I think that there's a bit of a better focus with this guy. We'll see what happens though.
yeah,
But
I
yeah.
agree with that too.
Any final thoughts on him? Again, we didn't talk too much of the defense. I think he's able to kind of keep up with threes. I don't think he's fully like 1 through 5 switchable or anything like that. Very few people are, but yeah. I think again does a lot of catching up and swatting from the backside blocks and stuff like that. Like he has decent recovery, and I think screening wise, I will say he is meh. It doesn't really answer that question.
No, but to be fair to him though, I think screening is a lost art though.
Sorry?
Screening is a lost art.
So, it is a lost art. There's a lot of lost arts.
I think we'll say that about a lot of these bigs. Screening,
Yeah.
I would say our European brethren in this case here probably have the advantage in that sense because that is probably more predicated in their offensive games.
And then those offenses as well. Yeah, I mean it's a good point. So, but I think he has like whatever prototypical skill set that you'd want in he has 2 different things that he could do at a decent level, and if refined, he could be very interesting for us.
This would be very potent. Yep.
So yeah, but yeah, I think that's it. Unless you have any final thoughts on Miss.
Oh man, just to kind of bring it right back to the overall draft. I mean, this was our first one, and I must admit, if this is what we're starting off with, I'm looking forward to seeing what we got next.
Yeah, you see, I'm starting kind of in the middle too. Like I'm not starting like super hyper high up. Like hey, let's go through and Look at like
AJ.
AJ or Darren Peterson
I am looking
or
forward to
Caleb
those discussions,
Wilson
yeah.
or
But but
or even Chris Senec's teammate Kingston Flemings,
yeah, right. Yeah, he's the guy right now. I think they got him maybe top 8 right now in this case
top
here.
5 in some
Like
cases too.
some cases, yeah. I do think there is. I am curious as we get more into this, and we talk to our friend Tyler about this. There does seem to be a shaping very similar to last year, where there's shaping of 4 guys that might be separating themselves, and then there's this next set.
Yes.
It's kind of seems to be breaking out the same way. I think initially at the beginning of the season, we thought there was like a blob of 8, maybe
Yeah.
9. But now as the season's going on, it's like not so much now. We're starting to, we're starting to trim the
Which is
fat.
natural. It's natural, but yeah. But I do think that the tiers are
A higher
it's
level.
yeah. I think the second tier in this draft is a bit better than the
I
second
agree.
tier of last
Yeah,
draft.
it's not the
And just in
first tier
terms
in
of
my
like the
mind.
floor, like to use
Yeah,
CMB as an example, he's a very high floor
right.
prospect. I know some people say he's a high ceiling prospect. I think he's a very winning player, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, his dimensions are the dimensions. He's not going to grow anytime soon.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
like when I see him at All Star standing next to like Dylan Harper and they're like the same height, I'm like, well, okay,
Well, that's
well,
why I saw him sitting beside De
but
Silva a week ago or two. It's like I said, they're
you
going,
know,
okay. It's like,
Dylan
okay.
Harper has grown,
Yeah.
for sure, but um,
No,
yeah.
yeah.
So
But that's the thing, right? It's like there's an argument that you get the 10 players in this draft, and all of them have potential to be all stars, right?
yeah,
While your point,
yeah,
seeing these high level may be a very high level role player when it's all said and done.
yeah. Now for the CMB fans, just how where I stand is a high level role player could be more important than an all star on some teams.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
So
if he's
yeah,
a good quality
I know
player,
what you meant, but I just like
yeah,
some people hear role player, they're just like, oh my gosh, like
right.
oh, and
Yeah,
it's
I'm
like
just saying to your
no, I'm
point
like
is,
he does all the dirty work, he does all the stuff. He's probably the best defender, if not if he's not the best defender right now on the Raptors, which yeah, people could say it's Scotty. I would say that if he's fine, Scotty, you're the best defender on the Raptors. He's a close second,
yeah,
and that's year one. I
it's
mean,
your
in
one.
2 years, he's going to be better defensively, and he's
But
going
I
to be
mean,
very interesting.
right, and you made a comment, I don't know, was it this podcast or the previous one we did about Scotty and Darko and their relationship and
Yeah,
being
yeah, last
Darko
one.
a better
Yeah,
coach. But this he's one of the guys where it's like, where I hope in this case there's more flexibility.
yeah.
It's like let me see what this dude's averaging like 17, 18 a game in a SEC team.
Yeah.
Like that's a real scorer. Let
Yeah,
me
if
see
if he can flush out, he needs to get a better handle for sure, and he needs to figure out a way to get his like a pop game, like where he could just or sorry a pull up game where he
Mhm,
if his face up game was just a bit better.
mhm.
This is where the summer of work, like, because he works hard. If he gets that, then it's like okay, now we're getting closer to where I thought like his ceiling is, where it's like okay, a Paul Millsap. Okay, there we go. Right, you can
Right.
kind of see it where it's like okay, you're undersized, but like you have the game to kind of get it off, and also have a little bit more longevity, so you're not always just being a bulldozer into
That's a
guys.
great comp actually. And by the way, folks, Paul Millsap made a couple all-star teams, just saying.
He did, and I think he was all defense once or
Yeah, I
something.
think he might have been. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but like, you're right, if he maxes out even something you're representing Millsap, like I say that's a big win because I
Mhm.
mean, as it before,
It's a
yeah,
pretty damn. It's on one of the best Hawks teams too,
exactly, yeah, because I'm
and
just
Denver, I think.
yeah, Denver. You had some good years at Denver. No, sorry, Utah. I think it was.
Yeah, yes, it was
Yeah,
Utah,
yeah.
but I do think he played. Did he play on Denver
He
briefly?
might have later in his career,
Well, it
but
may not
I
have been
think
his best
I think
years,
he
but
made
yeah,
Atlanta and Utah. Those would be like his prime years. I think of when I think of Millsap, but he might have jumped around to those teams a little too. I
yeah,
think the more I think I can see a Denver uniform on now, but I think but if you were able to get something out of that with him, but for that to happen, you would have to let Darko let go of the offensive reins a little bit more and
yes,
let him see him. Because one of the things I know we don't do, and just to wrap it up on that point, is that we don't post up, right? Now,
no,
if you had him with a guard, for example, and he's got pop and switches, where now he's switching up on some two guard and he's just going to town on them, in the post. I would love to see what that looks like, but we'll never get to see what it looks like.
yeah. So I think there just needs to be a little bit more of a focus, and as Darko is learning how to incorporate more of, it doesn't have to be the Darko way, which is what he feels is the perfect basketball thing, because basketball is kind of some of the artistry of basketball is that it is imperfect, that what you wanted to happen may not happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it will make Darko a better coach. It'll make him a better developer.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be better for the players involved as well. So it's good to hear that he is learning, and I don't mean that facetiously. Like that is a very good thing. Um, and again, shout out to Scotty Barnes for helping him to see that. Like he believes in Scotty Barnes enough to listen to Scotty Barnes, and Scotty's like, yeah, dude, it doesn't have to be perfect all the way. And in
Oh,
fact, as Scotty pointed out to him, because he was specifically talking about defense. And don't worry, I'm sure I have time to try to finish it as quickly as possible.
mhm.
But he mentioned that for Scotty was talking to him about the defensive end, and that was what
Mhm.
was interesting because he was basically like the defensive end doesn't have to be perfect. So you could see him thinking like, oh, okay, if we guard like 95 feet and blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't always happen that way,
No, it doesn't. It
dude.
doesn't. So good on Scotty B for that, man. Yeah,
Shout
it's
out.
true. Yeah, shout out to Scotty on that one. So yeah, I mean, all I'll say is, Raptor fans, if we're in the back half of the draft, you might get your wish finally, and we might actually draft a center. So we'll see.
Yeah, and stay tuned, folks. There is always going to be a written form of this going up somewhere. Usually, I'm going to start putting them up on YouTube more and more often. At least the longest version of it. They might be a truncated version on a Facebook or something like that. But always come to YouTube to get the full experience. Like, comment, and subscribe for all of that information at Basketball Rewind, and of course, check out my man as well. Beyond Locker Room. Link in the description below. Take care, people, and peace. Yeah.